going to talk a little bit today about nutrition to prevent stress and injury, and that's not to say that that's all food related, but food plays a lot bigger of a role in these things than people attribute it to, right? So we'll get into a little bit of that. If you have heard me speak, some of this stuff may look a little bit familiar because moral of the story is food is good, and that's what I'm always going to preach. But of course, there's going to be lots of different information in here about how to prevent that injury, how to manage that stress related to food. So here's a thing that I hear all the time, right? We're going to exercise more, we're going to eat less. That's always what I hear. People come in, they're upset because this is what they've been doing and they don't see really any differences. And so a common thing that I also have people say is that they think that eating 2,000 calories a day is way too much. Or that they should exercise to burn off all of the calories that they ate, or close to it, right? Like, I only ate 500 calories and then I did a workout that burned 500 calories, so I should be good, right? That net balance is 0. But what we're figuring out is that's not really true. So your body is a lot more complex than a math equation. And so a lot of what we're going to get into in this presentation is what's actually happening when your body is not fueled enough. And of course, that increases your risk of stress, mental fog, poor decision making, and then increased risk of injury. So anyone know where that 2,000 calorie number came from? Yeah, no one does, right? So what it was is they were trying to figure out something to put on the food label, the FDA was. And so what they did is they did a population study, and they took a bunch of different men and women, and what they used that machine, you know, where they dunk you underwater to figure out what your metabolic rate is. And based on that technique, they actually figured out that most people needed at least 2,350 calories. So that's what they originally were going to put on the food label. However, people convinced them that that would be too high and people might overeat if they put that on there, so they should go lower. So they decided on 2,000. And to the FDA's credit, they did say that this is an average and most people should treat that as an average, but unfortunately as a culture we don't. So I would say 95% of the people I talk to think that that's this crazy ceiling, right? And that maybe only men or only whoever should eat 2,000 calories. And so that's kind of what's happened there. So as a result, we're seeing something called low energy availability, which I'll touch on in a second. And low energy availability has a lot of negative impacts, specifically, again, related to that increased risk of injury and stress. So what energy availability is the energy that's left over, so the amount of calories that are left over and available for your body to function after you take your food energy intake, so everything that you've eaten, you subtract what you've burned during exercise or just your activities of daily living, and then you divide that by your lean mass, and that gives you your energy availability. Now, I don't expect you to know that equation, but all of that to say, you've got to have at least 30 calories per kilogram left over. So again, I don't expect you to memorize that, but that's a significant amount. That usually comes out to at least 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 calories left over after that, at a minimum, right? So when you're not doing that, you're not giving your body what it needs to function appropriately, right? So it's got to look other places for that energy, right? Your heart has to pump, your lungs have to work, your liver has to work, your kidney has to work, and each of those organs has a salary. And if you're not paying your body that salary with food, your body is going to go anywhere else that it can to be able to pay your organs to function. And unfortunately, what it does is not go for fat, which everyone thinks. It actually goes for your lean tissue. And so what lean tissue is inclusive of is the tissue around your organs, your muscle, your connective tissues, basically everything in the body that's not fat. And then when your body's breaking that down, you're more likely to get injured. And it goes for the tissue around your brain, that's an organ, right? So mental confusion, you're more likely to have a volatile mood. Things that are stressors in life are going to make you more stressed than they could. All of these things play a role. So, a couple of other things. Poor immunity, right? So that lean tissue, that tissue around your organs, is what keeps you healthy, gives you longevity. It also includes those white blood cells, right? So without that, you're going to have poor immunity. So of course, that's going to increase your risk of illness. Another thing a lot of people that I've worked with that are not fueling their bodies enough, what they notice is when they're sick, they stay sick for a really long time. So for example, I actually saw a client yesterday that is kind of in this situation, and this particular individual has been sick for about 5 weeks. I mean, just from a common cold, because the body just doesn't have that tissue and all of that to fight back. Another thing that it's going to do is relate to poor sleep. So a lot of people don't understand how much food impacts your sleep. So if you're not fueling your body enough, whether or not you feel hungry, a lot of times your body is keeping you awake or waking you up at night because it's hungry. And again, you might not wake up feeling that sensation, but that's going to happen. And of course, if you're not getting good sleep, you're not going to have good energy the next day, and that cycle just kind of repeats. So, speaking of that cycle, what happens, and a very common thing that I see, is that we have low intake in the beginning part of the day, or just during the day in general, for whatever reason, right? It may just be you don't really feel that hungry, it may be you forgot to pack a lunch, your schedule's busy, whatever that reason is, we've got low intake, right? So then it causes that hunger at night. So you get home from work, and again, another really common thing I see is that people haven't eaten a whole lot by about 3 o'clock. They get home from work, they're starving, and 4 or 5 o'clock and later is where they get the majority of your calories, right? So that's a common thing that happens. That can cause poor sleep in and of itself because your body's trying to digest all of that food. So you basically just stocked up on all of this energy and all of this nutrients right before doing nothing. Another thing is if you don't eat a lot throughout the day, kind of what I was just saying, you're going to be woken up at night for sleep because your body's hungry. So then we get poor sleep, right? Then we cycle around to the next day, you're really, really tired, everything's kind of triggers at work, things that are stress related are more, I don't know, triggering than they could be, right? So everything just kind of compounds itself. And then you get that kind of end of the day crash, right? It's 2, 3 o'clock, even 4 or 5, you get home from work, you don't want to do anything. And then you're too tired to go to the grocery store even though you know you need food. Or you're too tired to cook dinner even though there's nothing really in the house. Or, fill in the blank, and then this cycle just continues to repeat because since you didn't go to the grocery store, the pantry's not stocked, you don't have anything to bring with you to work the next day, and then there we go. So why does this happen? So a lot of it is people have unrealistic expectations, and not necessarily even related to weight and intake, but unrealistic expectations of what they need to do to eat throughout the day. So another thing that people will tell me before we get to the meal planning part of our session is, oh, well, I'm not the type of person who's going to plan and have grilled chicken, broccoli, and sweet potatoes every day. I'm not going to cook on Sundays. I'm not going to, again, that's an unrealistic expectation. You don't have to do that. You can go out and get a sandwich for lunch. You can pack yourself, I don't know, Cheez-Its as a snack. You can do whatever you've got to do, but the fact is you've got to actually eat. But I think some people are overwhelming themselves because they think this intake has to be perfect. And they're setting themselves up for, again, these unrealistic expectations around food. So then what that relates to a lot of times what I see is people want to find structure. So they don't feel like their day has a lot of structure when it comes to food. And so then they look for that. And so then what does that lead to? Doing different fad diets, right? Because fad diets are, of course, going to tell you usually exactly what to eat, exactly what to cook, recipes. It's going to give you all of this different structure that you're looking for. However, a lot of these fad diets have a lot of pitfalls, right? So most fad diets are going to reduce your metabolic rate. And the reason being is because what they're going to do is not feed you enough. So it's very common for whatever fad diet for it to be, to only feed you somewhere between 12, maybe 1,600 calories, something along those lines, which isn't enough. And what that does is actually bring down your metabolism because your body's trying to compensate. It doesn't want to burn more than you're feeding it. Another thing that it does when you're not taking in enough, your gut is very responsive to how you eat, right? So if you're not eating a whole lot, your gut's going to start slowing down. And when your gut slows down, you're of course going to notice an increase in bloating, an increase in gas. You're just going to feel uncomfortable around meals. You may not even feel hungry, and that's not a good thing. You need to feel hungry. If you're not feeling hungry, that's a good indicator that your gut's not working very well for you, or that metabolic rate is very low. Another big thing with a lot of these fad diets is they eliminate a lot of different essential food groups, right? There's always a low carb one, or there's cutting out legumes, or there's, fill in the blank. It's typically eliminating some sort of food group, but we need all these food groups that all have different nutrients for us. I would never recommend a diet where you're cutting out an entire food group unless you have of course an anaphylactic allergy to it, but otherwise you should not be cutting out an entire food group. The other thing is a lot of them are not sustainable, right? Whether or not it's because the expense of trying to keep all of that food in the house, or the preparation that it takes, or just you're hungry all the time so you can't sustain it. And so typically what happens is if you did lose any weight on that fad diet, it's regained. Another thing that I've noticed with a lot of people is an increase in sugar cravings when they do these fad diets, and that's because some fad diets, not all of them, but some fad diets don't recommend enough protein, or because you're decreasing your intake by so much, you're not taking in enough protein, and low protein intake is correlated to cravings for sugar and carbs in the afternoon and evening. And then of course low energy, because this whole cycle, right, not taking in enough is going to relate to that low energy, and then we get that crash and back to that same cycle. So another thing that I see is increased hunger, right? We try to be really quote-unquote good throughout the day, and kind of what I was touching on before, we get to the end of the day, and you're so hungry that you just feel like you lose control, and you eat whatever's in the house because you're just starving, right? The other thing that's not so great about them is this, it's a regimen that's really extreme. It makes it so you've got to cut all of this out, you can't do X, Y, and Z. I mean, it's very extreme just in their nature. And then again, same thing. Poor quality sleep, potentially because you're hungry, your body's breaking down that lean tissue. Now, the reason I say specifically low carb consumption is because most fad diets cut out carbs, right? I would say almost all of them at least cut carbs in some way, shape, or form. Now, what low carb consumption is going to do is give you poor energy level, not only just during activity, but during activity, which I'll touch on in a second, and just poor energy in general. So I'm sure you guys remember this, or maybe you don't, but back from high school bio, it was always that carbs are your body's best source of energy. It's what your body can use the most efficiently. It's what your body is able to fuel you with for any sort of activity of daily living, right? I think deep down everybody knows that, but we've kind of created this culture where we shouldn't eat carbs, and so despite knowing that, we kind of push that aside. So poor energy level, not only during the day, but during activity. So if you're someone who does any sort of activity, whether or not it's just going to the gym or walking your dog, you're not going to have the energy stores that you need even for activity like that. I'm not talking elite athletes here. I'm just talking basic functions of doing things, or just a quote-unquote, if you want to call it that, normal exercise routine. And the reason that's being is because it's depleting those glycogen stores. So glycogen is how your body stores those carbohydrates, and it's what your body needs when you're doing any sort of physical activity, walking, whatever it may be. When you don't have those, you're going to notice that increase in fatigue, not only during a workout, but again, that following day or just throughout the day. And then, of course, that increased risk of injury, because if your body does not have those stores to break down, what's it going for? The lean tissue and muscle. And then also, just on a completely other side, it also increases your risk of cramping. So part of the reason a lot of these fad diets cut out carbs is because carbs hold on to water, and people attribute that as something bad. However, it's not. Carbs do hold on to water, and you need that to prevent cramping. So if you're a runner, or if you, again, do any sort of basic exercise routine, you're going to be more likely to cramp during that, especially in the hotter months, because your body's not retaining as much water as it could be by decreasing that carb intake. Now, here's another big one. A really common question I get is, okay, well, if you're telling me I shouldn't cut carbs, how many should I eat? So your brain needs carbohydrates. It needs carbohydrates to function. All of that, which is kind of what I was saying before, which is why the next day you might notice poor cognition or a volatile mood, all of those kinds of things. The absolute minimum that your body needs throughout the day would be 130 grams of carbs. That equates to at least about 8.5 slices of bread per day, right? So That's at a bare minimum. If you're doing anything other than just sitting, like not even walking to and from your car, you need more than 130 grams of carbohydrates in a day, right? So, yeah.
This is 130 grams of protein.
Where?
On third bullet.
Oh, sorry. I just typed out. It's carbs. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, it's carbs. I just noticed that the second one says that, but the third one doesn't. Yeah, 130 grams of carbs in a day, okay? So, let's say you do, I don't know, run for 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's going to increase that carb intake by probably another 60 to 90 in a day, right? So we're up there in close to the 200 grams, et cetera, et cetera. If you have a more strict exercise regimen or you're doing more than that, it's got to be more and more. Yeah?
Sorry. For people that are gluten sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
do gluten-free breads and things like that, they don't taste like real carbs. Like, does your body process them as carbs? Yeah. Okay.
And you can do like gluten-free carbs, like you can get it in quinoa and those kinds of things, yeah. Okay. Another thing that a lot of fad diets do is recommend a lot of fasting periods. So sometimes there's this intermittent fasting thing going on, or a lot of fad diets say like don't eat after 4 o'clock, or I don't know. There's always these time restrictions, which inevitably lead to some sort of fasting period. And then a lot of times what I see is that, again, if people do have kind of a normal exercise routine, what they're doing is exercising during that fasting period. So especially my people who are morning exercisers, they get up, they don't eat anything, they go right to their exercise, right? So what that's doing is, again, not giving your body fuel for that workout, and your body's going to start decreasing that metabolic rate because it doesn't have enough. And then what it's doing is storing fat because it feels starved and breaking down lean tissue. And a lot of times what I joke about with my clients is that's the definition of skinny fat, right? So like your body is increasing in fat but decreasing in lean tissue. And so your weight may stay the same, but that's what we're kind of seeing happening. And I see that with a lot of clients that I work with. Now that breakdown of lean tissue, like I was touching on before, again, that's muscle, that's tissue around your organs, it's digestive enzymes, all of those things in the body that are not fat. It's increasing your risk of injury because, of course, if your body's breaking that stuff down, that's your protective layer. That's the stuff your body needs for all of this activity. If it's breaking it down, it's going to increase that risk that something's going to get injured. So a little bit of my background, I used to work at Virginia Tech and North Carolina State University with their athletes. And a lot of times when one of them would get injured, the biggest person on that team to correct that was the dietitian. Was to make sure that their lean tissue mass was improving, that they were fueling their body enough for that recovery. And a lot of them, unfortunately, we noticed that a lot of them who were getting injured frequently, their lean tissue mass was not where it should have been for, whatever their sport or their position was. Kind of going along those lines, it's going to prolong your injury, right? So it's going to take it that much longer for your body to heal. And then the other thing that it does is premature aging. So there's something out there called sarcopenia. And what sarcopenia is age-related loss of lean tissue and muscle because that naturally happens as you get older. But of course, if your body's breaking down lean tissue at a point when it shouldn't be, that's happening sooner than it needs to. Again, all of that making it that much harder for your body to repair and for your body to adapt and prevent injury. All right, so what do we need, right? So, said a lot of negative things, and I don't mean that to be negative, but what do we need? So what you have to do first, and I am going to touch a little bit just about what we do at the Common Clinic, because it'll kind of help you understand this slide, but we'll get into that in a second. But what we've got to do first is determine your actual metabolic rate, so how many calories your body is burning at rest. And then what you would do is calculate how many calories you need for your daily activity level. So for most people, that's going to be anywhere between like 30% of your metabolic rate for women and 50% for men. So you would take that number and you would add that to your metabolic rate. And then you've got to calculate how many calories you need for exercise and add that on top. And then you add those all together, and then you've got your number of how much you should be taking in a day to fuel all of that exercise. So, like I said, I'm going to kind of dive into what we do about in the Calm Clinic real quick because it'll explain this a little bit better. So, what we do is we have a thing, it's called a metabolic test. We just breathe under this hood in a fasted state, and that's how we can determine what that metabolic rate is. So what it's doing is it's using what we call indirect calorimetry. It's testing that oxygen in versus CO2 out, and that's how we can determine how many calories your body's burning at rest. And so what it's doing is evaluating that current nutrition status. So we can see where your body is right now. We're looking for how many calories your body needs at rest, which every single person is different. And we'll be able to see if that number is maybe lower than where it should be, or right where it should be, or higher, or whatever it may be. The other thing that it's going to tell us, the other thing that it's going to tell us is your substrate utilization. And what that means is what your body is actually burning for that fuel. So is it breaking down carbs? Is it breaking down protein, which is that lean tissue? Or is it breaking down fat, and at what percentages? What was your question?
So when you do that test in your office, is it done in the morning before you've eaten anything? Is it done midday? I mean, what are the restrictions on having the test done?
It can be done either. So if it's an afternoon, we just need at least a 4 or 5 hour fast. It also means no caffeine and no exercise, because both of those things are going to increase your metabolic rate. So a lot of people like to do morning, but when we can't swing a morning, we just do afternoon, and you just can't eat for 4 or 5 hours.
Just to clarify, so Thursday, I have my appointment, so no caffeine on Thursday at all.
No exercise, no food for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So what this is going to do for us, once we get that number, once we get that metabolic rate, it helps us to figure out what we do need to feed you. Because as I'm sure I've driven home in the beginning part of this presentation, is we don't want you to not take in enough. So this is a really good baseline to make sure that we are in fact feeding you enough. And then it's going to tell us how your body does adapt to that fasted state, right? Some people, your body's going to start breaking down lean tissue immediately within like weeks. Other people, it's been this really long history of months and months and months. So we can kind of see how your body adapts in that way. So this is just an example of what that profile looks like. So once we do the test and how that prints out. So what we see here is that PRE, that stands for predicted resting energy expenditure. That's purely based on a calculation, and we just use that as a reference range. And then the actual resting energy expenditure is how many calories this particular person's body was burning at rest. So as you see, that's significantly lower, and what we call that is a hypometabolic state, because that body was conserving energy. We like to equate it to logs on a fire, right? So you put a lot of logs on a fire, that flame's going to be nice and high. Not a lot of logs on a fire, that flame's going to come down. That's kind of how your metabolism is. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people attribute metabolism to genetics, which of course genetics plays a role, but it's also very impacted by the amount you feed your body. So this particular individual was in a hypometabolic state. Their resting metabolic rate was only 784, which is extremely low. The other thing that we look at is that top number, that PRO, which is protein, the body breaking down lean tissue. So the reference range is 15. Your body's always going to break down somewhere between 2 and 15% of lean tissue. We're getting real sciencey, it's so that your body maintains a negative nitrogen balance, blah, 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 right? So that's the reference range. This particular individual is breaking down 37% of lean tissue, right? That means that they're breaking down lean tissue at more than double the rate that they should have been. So pre-aging that body at more than double the rate, doubling, if not more, their risk of injury, illness, all of these things, right? What this particular individual was doing was actually cutting calories. This person had just gone on a diet a couple months ago and decided to only eat 1,200 calories, and this is what we saw. So again, we get to see how the body adapts in a fasted state. This person was not a chronic dieter, so her body really reacted strongly to just decreasing that intake. So what we did for this particular individual is tell her to increase her intake, and then I think it was 2 months later, we were almost corrected, not fully corrected, but that metabolic rate was definitely better. We're up to 1426, which is great, because we fed the body more, we put more logs on the fire. And then because the body was getting more, it was not as apt to breaking down that lean tissue, so of course that 37% came down to 21, which is great. So not fully corrected, we still want to see it below 15, but we're definitely moving in that right direction. Yep.
So does this work for postmenopausal women as
particular individual was actually 53. So, okay, so then we do the body composition analysis, and this is the one that tells us that proportion of lean tissue in the body, fat, muscle, intracellular water, all of those kinds of things. And this is really important because a lot of times what I see is people are really obsessed with that scale weight, right? And then when we look at the body composition, perfect example, a client that I saw last week was very upset because number on the scale was up about a pound. We did the body composition. This particular person had put on 2.5 pounds of muscle and dropped almost 1.8 pounds of fat. So to me, that's fabulous, right? But if you had just looked at the number on the scale, they were upset. So what the body composition does is just send a little electrical current through the right side of your body, and that current is going to react differently with all the different things in your body. So it goes really quickly through water, a little more slowly through fat, or a little more slowly through muscle, I should say, and then really, really slowly through fat. And so from that, we're able to get the proportion of those things in your body. And kind of like what I was just saying, the reason we do it is because your scale weight is not always indicative of what's really going on. Back to that whole quote-unquote skinny fat thing, right? I've seen a lot of people who they were really happy because the number on the scale was lower, but what had actually happened is that muscle weight was lower and that fat weight was higher. So this is just an example of someone, so this is an example of someone who wanted to lose some weight. This particular individual was a personal trainer, actually doing a lot of exercise throughout the day. And what we recommended is that he take in, I want to say it was like 2,400 calories or so, like pretty high, just as a place to start, and come back in a couple weeks so that we can track these kinds of things, because we don't like to go too long in case we see things that we don't want to. But he didn't want to come back that soon. He's like, no, I know all about nutrition, I'm a personal trainer, I got this, I'll be back in 6 months. So he comes back in 6 months, he's thrilled, weight's down, right? But what do we see? It was all in lean tissue, right? I mean, his fat weight had gone up 10 pounds, and body fat percentage was up 9%, right? And so we're like, well, what did you do? If you're eating 2,400 calories at least, this should not have happened. And turns out that, he did that for about a week, 2 weeks, and then kind of fell off and got back into the ways of not eating as much, and then started to do a slim fast every day for breakfast and lunch. And so then this is what we see. And so again, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. So the body had stored fat and broken down lean tissue instead. And now this guy, especially being a personal trainer, is at really high risk for that injury, right? If he's constantly lifting weights and constantly showing people proper technique and that kind of thing, he's at a much higher risk for something going wrong. And so when your body's breaking down that protein or that lean tissue, of course, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing your immune system decline, your body breaking down that organ tissue, that skeletal muscle, and then your body storing fat. And then we just kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you're underfeeding the body, you're accelerating that aging. Because remember, sarcopenia, that age-related loss of lean tissue and muscle, we're making this happen more quickly than it needs to. The other thing that it does is when you decrease your intake, what's happening is it's decreasing your body's availability of carbohydrates, right? When you don't have enough carbohydrates, your body is not able to make as much serotonin because your body serotonin needs carbohydrates in order to form, right? A lot of your serotonin is actually made in your gut. A lot of people don't know that. And so when you've got low serotonin, what we actually see is an increase in all of these things, an increase in that slow gut movement, that gastroparesis, an increase in anxiety, obsessive thoughts, depression. And a lot of times what I see with some of my clients is this is happening during the day while they're at work. Like that anxiety at work is through the roof when, of course, work can be very stressful. I'm not saying that it's not work related, but it could probably be a little bit lower had this individual been feeling their body a little bit better. So, how can we make the change? How can we make sure that you are fueling your body enough, right? So, as we know, over-exercising and under-eating, or just under-eating in general, is going to cause that muscle breakdown and not synthesis. So, one thing that I sometimes will draw out for a lot of my clients is that equation needs to be zero. So when you're exercising, again, whether or not it's just walking your dog on a regular basis or you're training for a marathon, whatever it may be, when you're exercising, that body is breaking down muscle. That's what exercise does, right? Of course, it's going to repair that. That's how you build muscle, but it needs food to do that. That's why there's that popular thing that you've got to eat right after a workout, those kinds of things, because your body breaks down the muscle, and then the food is what actually causes that muscle to synthesize. You want that equation to equal 0, meaning you want to be eating enough to fuel the amount of exercise. So instead of trying to burn off the 500 calories you ate, it should be the opposite. If you burn 500 calories, you should eat 500 calories, so that equation is 0. Yeah, my little scale smashing thing, because just don't weigh yourself every day. So what we want to do is we want to think of food as fuel, which our culture now is trending towards not doing that. We just, food is the stressor, food is something that you have to do, or food, a lot of it takes a lot of time and people don't want to take the time. But as you can tell, we don't want you to restrict calories. You've got to fuel what you're doing for the day. Your body needs to be paid that salary, right? The best way to do that is eat breakfast. I can't stress enough how important it is to eat breakfast. You want to front load that day. And the reason being is because you want to start your day off with high protein so that, well, I should say for a couple of reasons. One, because even if you feel like it's not the case, what it's really going to do is give you more control throughout the rest of the day. So if your body's well fed, you're not going to feel the need to go grab like the brownies that were brought into the break room, or you're not going to feel the need to snack on all this stuff because your body's actually been fueled. The other thing that it was going to do, like I touched on a little bit earlier, is it's going to make it so that you don't have as many cravings for those carbs and sweets, right? Because remember that low protein intake in the beginning part of the day is correlated to cravings for carbs and sweets in the afternoon and evening. So if you're able to really front load that breakfast in the beginning part of that day, especially with protein, then those things should start to go away. The other thing that protein, like dietary protein intake, is good for is sustained energy levels, so not causing that 2-3 p.m. crash, and then also keeping that mood more stable. And again, it's all because your body's fueled, so it's in places to get that energy. So when I say high protein breakfast, to be specific, we should be doing at least 30 grams of protein in a breakfast, right? So to give you a reference there, you see the ones underneath that. One egg only has 6 grams of protein in it. I'm not knocking eggs, but I just want you to put that into perspective. If you need at least 30 grams, we can't just be eating a hard-boiled egg, right? Greek yogurt, usually anywhere from 8 to 12. There's some out there now, they're going to get you 15. I think I even saw one with 20, so they're getting a little bit higher, but even still, that's going to take Greek yogurt and other things with protein. Then oatmeal, really, really popular breakfast. Again, I'm not knocking it, but it's got almost no protein, so you've got to put other things in it or have other stuff with it to get that protein in. The other thing is eat snacks, right? Snacks are always the first thing to go. People don't plan for snacks, the day gets stressful, or things pop up, meetings happen, etc., and we don't eat snacks. You definitely want to eat snacks. Pack snacks. Pack a whole bag of snacks. What it takes is shopping for these things, right? A really common thing that I have my clients tell me is that they have a billion snacks in the house for their kids, right? They go and they get their kids everything, and when they pack them a lunch, it's like this vat of snacks, but then they don't bring anything for themselves to work. So what I often tell people is actually like when you pack lunch for your kids or put snacks in a bag for your kids, do the same for yourself. Or if you don't have kids, just pack yourself food. And it doesn't have to be all this stuff that you've planned out. It doesn't have to be these elaborate meals. I mean, it can be a string cheese, it can be a yogurt, it can be, a trail mix, whatever, but just plan ahead a little bit. And remember, eat carbs. That's really like the best news you've heard all day. Eat carbs. That 130 grams is a minimum, like bare minimum. So eat carbs.
Yeah, is there a benefit to like front loading your protein in the morning versus like midday? Like biochemically, does it make any difference?
What's midday?
Like noon, lunchtime, if you like a really high protein lunch versus like a low protein breakfast?
No. So front loading the day, I usually actually tell people noon and before. And that's because regardless of what time you wake up and go to bed, Typically, your metabolic rate functions on like a 12-ish hour cycle, somewhere between like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's not to say you can only eat during those time frames, but you do want to try to hit relatively the middle of that and before. So another thing we want to do, because in case you haven't gotten it, protein is important, not only on your body, but the amount that you're eating. Protein is the big thing that relates to immunity. That's its main function, right? So we want to do a variety of them. So you don't want to eat just chicken. You don't want to eat just turkey, right? You want to eat all different proteins. And the reason being, again, we'll get real sciencey, is each of these things have a different amino acid structure. You need lots of different amino acids for your body to form those proteins in your body. And so you need to get the different ones that are coming from meats and eggs and dairy and fish and all of these different things in order to create that full protein structure for your body to be able to use. So you want to take in a lot of different proteins. Now, I often get a question about protein powders and those kinds of things, so I went ahead and put this in here. I'm 100% okay with protein powders. Whey is actually the most easily digested and what your body is going to use the best. So some people don't tolerate whey, and that's a totally different story, but if you do tolerate whey, I always recommend a whey protein powder if that's something that you go for at whatever point during the day. So the other thing that we want to do, and yes, this applies to you if you're one of those 5, 6 a.m. exercisers, is eat carbs before you exercise. So it doesn't have to be huge, but just something small. I don't even care if it's 2 bites of like a granola bar, or half of an apple, or a bite of an apple, or whatever it may be. You want to eat some sort of carb before that workout. And again, that's to improve that glycogen store and actually give your body something to burn during the workout instead of using your lean tissue. And of course, that's going to prevent that muscle breakdown because your body will use that. And there's been some research to show, I mean, with some statistical significance, that if you have a little bit of carb before you work out, your body's more apt to use that alternating carb and fat cycle during your exercise, as opposed to feeling fasted and going straight for lean tissue. The other thing yeah?
And so you could have as little as a half a granola bar, and you can benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know before, when I get up, I go exercise, I go and I exercise. Because I don't really like to eat for exercise, you know what I mean? It's just, but just the 2 bites is enough to get my body to work when I start working out. Okay, thank you. I learned one thing today, yay.
So then what you also want to do is eat immediately after exercise, right? So when I say immediately, I don't mean like you go to your class at 6, it ends at 7, you come home, you eat breakfast at 8:30 or 9. I mean within 30 minutes to at most an hour. And what they have figured out is the sweet spot with that is about 20 to 25 grams of protein and 50, I put protein twice.
Is that
15 grams of carbs. I don't know, maybe I just had protein on the brain when I was making this. 20 to 25 grams of protein, that second one should be carbs, 15 grams of carbs. And so actually, a really, really good one, and this sounds kind of silly, is chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is a really good mix of carbs and protein. It doesn't have quite the 20 unless you're drinking quite a bit of it, but that's a really, really common, really, really easy one. Then, of course, if you are into like protein powders, those kinds of things, if that's easy for you, they typically have generally this makeup. Another easy thing would be like apple and peanut butter, or, you know, there's a lot of different combinations you can make to get this, but you definitely want to have that because that, the best way I can equate it is right after an exercise, or a workout I should say, your muscles are like a dry plant. And the quicker you can feed it, the faster it's going to soak up everything you give it. And so your muscles are much more likely to synthesize at that point. So the other big thing that you want to do is you really want to plan ahead, right? So again, this does not mean you've got to cook all of your meals for the week on a Sunday. It really comes down to keeping the pantry stocked. And that can be as simple as just going to the grocery store more frequently, right? So maybe if you only go once a week and you notice you're running out of food, go twice a week, or just as simple as that. The other thing is get things, how should I word this? Protein are hard things to keep stored, right? Because most protein sources are things that are going to spoil outside of like your nuts, nut butters, things like that. But it is pretty feasible, for example, to get cheeses or yogurts or meats that will last you just a week, right? So just plan for the whole week. A common thing that I see is people will go shopping on maybe Sunday, and they really only plan or go through like Wednesday, but really plan that whole week, right? I mean, it seems minute, but it does matter. Again, pack food, pack snacks, always have it with you. So it's better to have more than you end up eating and bring the leftovers home than to not have anything. Because it's when you don't have stuff that you get really hungry and you just run and go grab, fill in the blank. And 90% of the stuff, yeah, 90% of the stuff you're going to grab is not necessarily protein heavy, right? Another thing, and again, this seems very basic, but schedule meals into your day. So most people have pretty strict schedules, or just a schedule that needs to be stuck to, you know, with meetings and whatever else. Go ahead and schedule food into that, right? And I understand sometimes things come up and that's not possible, but 90% of the time you should be able to schedule this in. Sometimes I've had clients in front of me pull up their calendar and put a 5-minute block to eat 2 string cheeses or whatever it is, but really, like, don't sacrifice that time for you. And again, you don't have to be perfect. You really don't have to eat veggies and protein all day, every day. Like, you can have a burger, you can eat pizza, you can have all of these things, of course in moderation, but you don't have to be perfect, right? And that's one thing that I see a lot, is people think they either have to be perfect or everything's terrible. So don't think that black and white, you don't have to be perfect. Now, exercise. Exercise. So here's a common thing that's popular right now, is doing these really, really high intensity workouts. I'm not knocking them at all, but I have a lot of people tell me that they don't feel like they've done a workout unless it's something that at the end they absolutely feel like they're going to die, right? That is not necessary. The recommendation, like the FDA recommendation, is 140 minutes a week. But the big thing is you want to do it for your health, you want to do it for your fitness, you want to do stuff that you enjoy. Not only because that's still proven to have benefits, but also because you're more likely to do it if you enjoy it, right? I mean, if it's something you really want to do and you really love skiing, or you really love going on hikes, or you really love just riding your bike, you're so much more likely to do that than go do like a 40-minute workout video that you're going to be dying the whole time and doing 60 burpees, right? So, like, do stuff that you enjoy. It makes a world of difference. The other thing that I get is people feel like they have to work out for an hour. You don't have to work out for an hour. Do something for 15 minutes. It's better than not doing anything. So just real quick, we'll just talk about this. Yeah?
I have a question about proteins. So at what percentage proteins could become dangerous? I heard if you take more than, for example, I'm trying to build muscles for the moment, and so exercise, and so I'm taking more proteins than usually. I heard that I shouldn't go over 30%. Was it like 25% of the macro?
I don't think at that point it would be detrimental. Like 20 to 30% is totally fine. I mean, if you were getting up into like 50% of your intake is protein, that would be probably too much. But no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost impossible to take in too much protein. One thing you should do when you take in more protein is also drink more fluids, because your kidneys are what filter through that protein. And so if you're not giving your body enough fluids with the protein, it does make it tough on your kidneys. So you just want to have enough fluids with it. But yeah, it would be pretty tough to get toxic in protein.
So 25 to 30% is still fine.
So we'll just go through this really quick, just because I want to show you that calorie restriction doesn't necessarily mean like down to 1,200 or 1,500 or something very, very low. This particular individual was exercising. She was swimming 6 times a week for 2 hours. She had just, before she came in to see us, she had just increased that from 1 hour to 2 hours. Her intake was about 2,200 calories, and her protein grams were 30, right? So calorie-wise, you're thinking, 2,200, right? And this is what her body composition looked like. That lean weight was 102, fat weight 112, body fat percentage. This PA, that stands for phase angle, but phase angle is actually telling us essentially how resilient and how healthy your cells are. We actually want to see that at 6.7 or higher, so that 5.6 is really, really low for her. So that was one thing that was a little bit standing out, but if you just look at this, it's kind of like, all right, not too bad. So what we said is that she's going to increase her intake to about 2,600 and definitely double that protein intake. 30 grams is not nearly enough. So we said you've got to double that protein intake. This is what her original metabolic test looked like. Remember that protein substrate was out at 32%, so that's pretty high, and her metabolic rate was low at only 11.29. So again, those recommendations. And then this is what we saw actually from increasing that intake and doubling the protein. So that lean weight stayed the same, but that fat weight did come down 6 pounds. And then the big thing that we see is that her cells were a little bit happier. Her body was better immunity. That's what that phase angle kind of relates to. Better immunity, body's functioning a little bit better. It doesn't feel as deprived. So that had definitely come up. And then what we actually did is increase her even a little bit more. We got her up to about 2,900 calories with the same exercise routine and all of that. And then we're seeing that her metabolic test 2 months later, so this one was a month later, and then we increased. 2 months later, we looked at this. So her body was not breaking down more lean tissue than it should have been anymore. And then that metabolic rate had come up to 1923 from about 1,100, which is great. And then her body continued to improve, right? So that fat weight obviously came down, that lean tissue number stayed the same, and that phase angle came up to 6.3. So still not even fully corrected, because remember we want to see that at 6.7 or higher, but definitely a lot better. And this particular individual was eating almost 3,000 calories a day in order to get to this. So I know it's very counterintuitive, it seems to make no sense, like why would you eat more to see these, but yeah, that's what we saw. So I think it's funny because I was talking with someone yesterday who, we were talking about, Michael Phelps said that he ate like 10,000 calories a day or 12,000, it's been crazy. Of course, none of us are exercising as much as Michael Phelps, but it's interesting that we wouldn't think of that to taper it to ourselves. So of course we're not exercising, let's say 30 hours a week, but some people are exercising 6, 7, 8. You would think we would kind of like incrementally taper that, but we don't, because no one thinks of themselves as like a quote-unquote athlete, and so then they don't think they need to fuel themselves that way. So this is just a good example of someone who is not an athlete. She did swim a lot, but not an athlete at any particular level or doing anything that was like for a team or anything along those lines. So the big things is eat, don't starve. Some of my little taglines are greatness doesn't happen on empty, get nourished to flourish, fun things like that. Your body's not a calorie in, calorie out equation, which obviously we've seen that. And then treating it that way is what does result in that illness and that increased stress and increased injury and all of those things. Anyone can become hypometabolic, that low metabolic rate from restricting your calories. And we have to correct that hypometabolic state before we're going to see any of those changes in that fat weight and phase angle